What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, March 3rd, 2023. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil. Phil, it may be the 23rd when people are listening to this, but it is the 25th of February when we're recording this. Why? Because I'm currently still traveling home from Florida, so this show is a bit recorded, but it's all previews, so nothing's really going to change, hopefully. But if anything is wrong, you can blame that we're recording it a week out, and we'll be back with our normal shows on our Monday show, the 6th.
Yeah, and we can always make comment changes on the fly. We do love the interaction, so any major changes or anything that comes down for the teams, we can always edit on the fly if we need to. And personally, I don't know why you didn't try to just make this episode while you were on the plane, but I guess we'll talk about that later.
BSC in flight?
Yes. It's your BSC is your new in-flight entertainment, and you could have done a live show with only half of it actually coming out, so nobody would hear my side of the show, but they'd hear your side. It would have been great. We could have had a whole plane full of new listeners. The
time we should have done this is when you and I were both on a 10-hour flight from New York City to Italy. That probably would have been the time to do it. We probably could have filled all 10 hours talking about any of these teams in particular.
Yeah, I didn't get much sleep, so I was awake and absolutely could have. Yeah, you were out. You were out cold. I don't know how you did it.
I was out before the plane even started moving.
Yeah, it was impressive. I can't sleep on those planes. Now I know, though, in the future, if I ever take another longer 8+ hour flight, I'm probably just going to do some kind of a small upgrade. Obviously not first class, maybe not even business class, but at least maybe the front of whatever we are.
Legroom.
Economy. Yeah, the front legroom, the extended legroom a little bit. I need something. That was just an uncomfortable 10+ hours of no sleep and then getting there exhausted. So that wasn't very fun. But we made it. We had fun. And now we can move on to February's show.
Yeah, and it's not actually February, it's March, remember. It's March 3rd. So if you want to follow along with our adventures in the skies, you can follow along with us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective and on Twitter at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com and check for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. So, like we said, it is Friday the 3rd when you guys are listening to this, which means the Beauts are on to Connecticut. Now, we don't know the results of the weekend series before this. Hopefully they're still in it, but we're going to go on the assumption that we have no idea because we really don't. So the next series is versus Connecticut. They're coming in scoring 3.42 goals for and 3.1 against. Their power play is sitting at 26% and their penalty kill is at a whopping 83%.
Yeah, the biggest thing with any series from now on, and like you said, we're hoping they're still in it, is to win. And that's pretty much all they're focused on right now. Connecticut is, again, another team that is a little bit similar in stats and everything compared to the Beauts, so it's going to be a little bit more of an even matchup compared to some of those early season really tough games that they were going through. So again, if you want to continue to prove us right and show that this is a growing team that is getting better and better as the season goes on, this is another series and the rest of the series pretty much for the rest of the season that you're going to not only want to win and need to win for playoff sake, but also just to win to continue growing and improving, and hopefully, no matter what happens this season, growing as a team, a young team with a lot of new players, a lot of new faces that can really ease into next season and kind of come out of the gates firing.
Yeah, this is a team that can score pretty well, but especially on the power play. A lot of their goals are coming from the power play. So you're going to have to do your best to stay out of the box. I think they've done a better job of that, especially the series versus Minnesota, where they just stayed out of the box and were able to play 5-on-5 and 5-on-4 quite a bit in that game. And I think that benefited them, and it keeps the shots against down, which we've been saying for quite a while that is a big thing that they've improved on. How many games in a row? They had that 6 games in 9 or 10 days, and I think it was 4 of the 6 the opponents had over 40 shots, and in the other 2 they were still over 30 or 35. So they've done a much better job of maintaining that and improving that, and their goaltenders are playing much much better. I don't even know if I want to say they're playing much better, but they're holding up much better because they're not facing so many shots against. And you're going to have to keep an eye on Kennedy Marchman, number 22, who's got 14 goals, 14 assists for 28 points, and Taylor Gerard, number 17, 8, 14, and 22. They are the two leading goal scorers for this team, both dynamite forwards. And if you're able to lock them down, once again, it's similar to what we say on all these previews. If you're able to, like you said, you're not going to be able to completely shut them down because their offense runs through them. But if you can limit the opportunities they get, you're having a much better opportunity to take down Connecticut in this must-win series.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of this last series that is currently going on / has finished up, about the team having two top forwards that you really had to lock down. Same with the Beauts. They have two main forwards, obviously a lot of depth behind that, but also two main forwards that you want to keep an eye out. Connecticut really just has one. Kennedy is absolutely incredible. I mean, the 14 goals, 14 assists, that is right up there at the top of the league. So not one that's going to be, that's someone you're going to completely be able to shut down. But again, if you can limit that one player versus this team having two real alphas on their team, they have one incredible player and then some pretty good supporting cast, but not really a 1A, 1B situation. So Marchman's definitely the one that you really want to key in on. And if you can find a way to limit her production, limit her damage that she'll do against you, then it's going to be a little bit easier game for the Beauts.
Yeah, and they're led in net by Abby Ives, who's got a 6-6 record, but she also has a 2.95 goals against and an 893 save percentage. So that's the goaltender that you're probably going to be facing at least one, if not both of these games, especially since Connecticut's in a must win. They're still looking to clinch a playoff seeding. So if you're going against her save percentage and goals against are not tops in the league. I think this is a team that relies so much on trying to get goals in because they know that they need a cushion for the goaltenders behind. I think we said this earlier on, that this is a team that you could put the puck in the back of the net, and if they're able to do that, they stand a great chance against the Connecticut Whale, which, again, Whale and not Wales is really annoying.
Especially after we just had a AAA, or not AAA, minor league baseball team names draft. I feel like Whale, simply for no S, would have been possibly up there as just a killer name, but not in a good way. Just where's the S? Just add an S. Can we get a petition started to add an S to
How
Whale?
much money do we have to provide for you to afford that S?
Yes, it's a big question. Change your jerseys, change everything, the logo, everything. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to cost, but you're going to need to add an S in there.
Yeah, and this is another opportunity to split the season series because back in January 17th and 18th, you lost 3-0 and 7-3. So this is definitely, and if I remember correctly, that was a game where the let me see if I can pull this up really quick because I'm pretty sure, yes, this is the team where you went down 4-0 real quick in the first. And then you got one right at the end of the first period to cut it to 4-1. You cut it down to 4-3 into the third period. And then right down the line here, Connecticut scored 3 straight to just, put the foot on your neck and just keep going. So it's an opportunity to get it back even, split the season series. Again, that's another opportunity where you can cut down on the shots against because it was 49-23 in that 7-3 game. If you're able to keep them in the 30s or possibly even under 30, I think you stand a great chance to be able to take down the Connecticut Whale.
And again, kind of like you were saying with the lower shots helping out the goalies, obviously the fewer shots you see, the better. There's a lower chance of them going in and scoring a lot, but in general, throughout the game, it kind of helps them stay fresh as the game goes on. If they're seeing 49 shots, I mean, that's kind of like what you said. They scored 3 goals really late in the third to put the Beauts away. That's going to happen when that goalie is just getting peppered the entire game. They're going to get exhausted and eventually let in goals that they might not normally let in. But if you keep those shots a little lower, obviously there's a lower chance of scoring, but also keeps your goalie fresh throughout the entire game, including the third period.
Yeah, and if you also want to, target Kennedy Marchman, she had 3 goals in that game. So, we're not lying when we say you got to keep an eye on her. But Phil, is there any other BSC changes you would like to make? Because currently your team looks like Newtonen, McPherson, Kepler, Kramer, and Healy, and I have Mentis, Dobson, Maud, Dove, and Madzika.
I am all set to hold.
That's where I'm leaning as well. I mean, we're pretty stinking close. You still got the edge over me in the Beauts division, but I'll make my comeback. But again, right now we don't know what happened last weekend, so we're just gonna pretend like nothing happened and move forward and hope that the Buffalo Beauts are still alive and my whole work that I put in a couple weeks ago still pans out. But we'll move on to the Buffalo Bandits here, Phil. Huge signing happened over the last weekend. Chase Frazer signed his 1-year deal on last Saturday. I don't know if that means he's going to step right into the role and get right back playing. I know some players are able to do that, but other players need to be more integrated into the system. I know he's been here for a while, but he's still got to get up to game speed and live action. I don't know if he's going to be ready for the Halifax game or even the following Halifax game back at home. Maybe they're going to use this whole bye week to get prepared and get ready and then ramp it up, and maybe he makes his reappearance back at home in front of Bandit Land on that Friday night versus Halifax in a big game there.
Honestly, I think with the signing, the biggest thing that could really come out of it, I was going to say, obviously him being signed is the biggest thing to come out of the signing, and the fact that he is hopefully going to get reintegrated. But for the upcoming game, the biggest thing is hopefully we see him on the injury report and that'll be the first update we've had this entire season as to where he is injury-wise. He'll be on the roster, therefore he will be likely on the injury report, hopefully in some capacity, unless they put him immediately down on the IR or kind of bury him on one of the bajillion lists that the NLL has to bury players on. But if he is on any sort of the roster that can be put on the injured list, it'll be interesting to see if he's questionable, doubtful, out, where they have him listed. So it kind of gives us some idea as to where his recovery is going and how close he really is to return to the team.
Yeah, we knew he had to sign another 1-year deal, because at least a 1-year deal. He needed to re-up because he just had a qualifying offer, which they'd never actually worked out, is the best way of wording it I can put. But he definitely needed a new deal. He was currently not on a deal. He wasn't with the team, so he needed to sign that a deal to be able to start practicing with the team, and he got this underway. So, Phil, like we said, Friday versus Halifax tonight. 5-5 Halifax Thunderbirds will play host to the 8-2 Buffalo Bandits Friday night at a weird 6:30 game. Bandits won on the New Year's Eve on the 30th of December 2022, 18-13 at home. They were tied 8-8 at half, and then the Bandits went on to outscore Halifax 10-5 in the second half. Smith, once again, huge monster game, 3-8-11. Byrne had his 7-goal game along with 5 assists for 12 points. Nanticoke 2-1-3. Bucky went 1-4 for 5. Vino 44 saves, and then the faceoffs were actually 28-7 for Halifax. For Halifax, though, Banesh 1-3-4. Pedersen 2-5-7. Shanks 1-2-3. Bushi had 2 goals. Stats had 3, 5, and 8. Bo Hunter 1, 2, and 3. Jameson 3, 3, and 6. And Phil, we'll get into the previews of the actual forwards, but just that alone, they have a lot of guys that can put the ball in the net, and I don't understand how they're just 5-5.
Yeah, their record is alarming because we expected them to be kind of where Rochester is right now. I mean, Rochester's obviously been one of the biggest surprises of the entire season, along with the entire West division over there. Their entire whatever's going on is kind of interesting. But as far as the East goes, Halifax was supposed to be one of the top 3, and I honestly think with the talent they still have on that team that they are arguably a top 3 team. And I think if this team was put, in playoffs back against the wall, that they're going to come out flying. But at 5-5, I just don't think their record really shows or reflects the amount of talent that is on that team. I don't know what's going on and why they are losing or not playing nearly as well as kind of we expected them to, or the talent on that roster reflects, but I don't think the Bandits will be taking them lightly in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, for the lefties, they got Banesh, my love and my hero. He's got 46 points on the season, 63 loose balls, and 3, 7, and 10 on the power play. So make sure you know where he is when you eventually go to the box, because this is Buffalo Bandits and they will be going to the box. Bo Hunter's got 6, 5, and 11 in his rookie season. Fennell 18, 16, and 34 with 66 loose balls. He's kind of like the Buchanan of the Halifax Thunderbirds. And then Cody Jameson, he's having more of a quiet season point-wise, but he is leading the power play as well, 3, 6, and 9. And then for the righties, Bushi has 22 goals on the season, which is 12th. He's got 35 loose balls, but 36 turnovers. So he's the guy that you can knock the ball out of the stick, and the Buffalo Bandits have been doing a heck of a job this year. Pettersson, he has 35 assists, which is 9th in the NLL, 52 points, which is 9th in the NLL. He has 15 points on the power play, though. Definitely a guy you want to target in that area. Shanks, 10, 24, and 34. He is having a quieter season getting back into this one. And then Randy Stats, he's got 36 assists, which is 7th in the NLL, and 53 points, which is 8th. He also has 3 caused turnovers and 10 points on the power play. This, like we just talked about, this forward group is unbelievable, the amount of talent they have. I don't know how they're able to get everybody happy and satisfied with the numbers they're doing, but it shows that everybody's so unselfish. The biggest thing, though, if they get under 500 again, if the Buffalo Bandits are able to defeat them and get them to 5-6 and face them back in home in Bandit Land and possibly defeat them again and go to 5-7, I know I'm talking 2 times down the line, but it's you might start wondering, are any of these guys going to start getting a little bit more selfish because they're not winning? Everything's great when you're winning, but when you're not, everything seems to tumble, and there's so much talent in the forward group. I can see that happening.
Yeah, that's kind of a catch-22 with this team. I mean, for one side of it, they really don't have a true number one guy, which we talked about, kind of similar to Rochester. Obviously, they have plenty of guys who are scoring quite a bit. I mean, 17 goals, 17, 14, 18, 17, and then 22, which is 12th in the league. But they don't have, I mean, for a league that's not really that big, they don't have someone in the top 3, in the top 5 for scoring. I mean, they have a couple, like you said, 9th in points and 8th in points. So they have guys that are in the top 10, which is fine. And I'm not saying that this offense is bad, but it's a little bit more spread out than the Bandits offense is currently, where you have Dane Smith running away with a potential MVP title again. And then when Byrne was out there healthy and active, he was also in the top, I believe, 2. Weren't they 1 and 2 for a little bit in the entire league in points? So, and then after that, the Bandits kind of fall off a little bit. I mean, their depth has been shown to be pretty wide, but again, that's the thing. It's not really, it's 1 or 2 players that are different every single game stepping up. This team has consistent point producers and goal scorers that all pitch in a little bit every single time, but they don't really have that one guy who they can look to take over a game in a situation exactly like the Bandits had last time in overtime, or the game in general. They were losing all their forwards. Everybody looked to Dane Smith. He comes out with 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. He's the kind of player that can take over a game. I don't know if this team, despite the insane amount of talent they have on offense, really has that one go-to guy, and I think that's kind of what is holding them back a smidge. But at the same time, like you said, this offense is so spread out, so widely talented. They're still an incredible team, and the other kind of double-edged sword of this thing is that they must know, going up against the Bandits in these back-to-back games, that if they come out of this 5-7, they're not looking great. And at the same time, if they come out of this, 7-5, and the Bandits would be 8-4, then they're right back in it for the top of the East. So these are 2 very, very desperate games for Halifax right now. This is literally a turning point in their entire season. If they split it 1-1, it's fine. They're okay. Bandits are okay. But if either team sweeps this series, it's huge as far as series and season implications go. And I know Halifax has to understand that, has to know that this is literally a turning point in their season. So they're going to come out, I have to imagine, just firing on all cylinders. I mean, this is literally do or die for their entire season. So this is going to be a very tough battle.
And it's a huge month for them, too, because right now they got Bandits, then they play the Rock back at home. But then they got Philly, they got Georgia twice, and they got New York. So those are 5 winnable games there, 4 winnable games, where if you take down the Bandits and the Rock, you're, like you said, you're right back in it. You still got Saskatchewan mixed in there, but you got Georgia, New York, you got Georgia twice, New York once, and Philly once, where if you win all 4 of those games and, you're guaranteed at least 9 wins, you're locking up a playoff position, but you're also, if you can take down the Bandits and the Rock, you're inching closer and closer. So they're nowhere even near out of it yet. And what's even more dangerous is the transition to defensive game. Johnny Pearson, he's in the transition game. Ryan Terefenko, he's got 120 loose balls, which is 4th in the league, 8 caused turnovers. He's also got 12 points. Colton Armstrong's got 40 loose balls, 9 caused turnovers. Tyson Bell, who's playing defense, got 12 caused turnovers. Graham Hossack, back to his normal self with 63 loose balls, 22 caused turnovers, which is 1st in the league, and 10 block shots. And then, Phil, don't forget Jake Withers, who you just mentioned was your man crush before we started here. 2, 6, and 8. He's got 143 loose balls, which is 1st in the league, 8 caused turnovers, while also having 83% face-off wins, and has lost just 45 times in 271 face-off attempts. My God, Phil, this guy is unbelievable. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for being so unbelievable, but it's not just the face-offs that he's getting, it's the points he's racking up, the loose balls he's racking up, he's getting caused turnovers. He's having a great season.
Yeah, and the dude's also in fights pretty much every single game, and for, I don't know his size, I think he's not small by any means, but he's not a Priolo or, half of the Bandits that they brought in this year to be 6'3" and up. He's, I would imagine 6'1", somewhere in there, but he is just throwing down everybody who's bigger than him. He is just incredible with what he's been able to do. Like you said, loose balls, number 1, 8 caused turnovers, pretty solid for a true face-off guy, and his face-off percentage is just mind-blowingly good. So, I mean, the player, he's just great. He's just great. He's physical. He's very impressive to watch play lacrosse. And like you said, the rest of their defense, I mean, I believe in the last game, Tyson Bell was being a little bit of and Hossack, I believe they were both being physical kind of agitators against the Bandits in their last matchup against these two teams. I think they're both just kind of poking the bear quite a bit, but their transition game's pretty solid. Their defense is not bad. Again, not really sure why they're 5-5. It's going to be a really tough fight, but they definitely have a lot of pieces on defense and transition to cause some havoc for the Bandits.
Hey, Phil, we haven't done it yet, so I'm going to do my PK's Hot Corner here. It's been a week since I had a sports-related, because last week was the Ice Cubes, which I still stand are overrated. But I've got this one, and everything you just said about Withers, I can't argue with. I talked him up as well, and I talked him up a little bit more than I probably should have, because I think Max Adler, for my Hot Corner, PK's Hot Corner, Max Adler is winning at least 30% against Withers. I don't know the percentage here, Phil. You got a calculator you can pull up for me really quick. He won 7 of 35. What is that breakdown? That's 20%?
Yep, exactly 20%.
Yeah, 20%. So he's going to win another 10%. Even winning 20% against Withers, your first opportunity, that's better than league average. Yeah. So I got Max has got Withers number at least 30% of the time.
I like how that's a solid hot take, impressive counterattack. That 30%. That's what I'm giving him. He's going to win 3 of every 10 face-offs. So if they take 30 face-offs, he's just got to win 9 face-offs the whole time. Not bad. I mean, hopefully he can do it. I feel like Max has the scrappy ability, but so does Withers. Yeah. He's Withers is a physical dude. So we'll see. We'll see what Max can come.
He's been coming into his own now that he's played a full season of games under his belt now in the regular season. So I think he's gonna have Withers' number at least 30% of the time.
He's gonna have 30% of his number.
30% of his number, which I don't know Withers' number, but he's got 30% of it. So we'll go to the goalie now. Warren Hill, 4-4, 1151 goals against, and a 76% save percentage. He's not having the typical Warren Hill numbers, and I think that's could be another reason why Halifax is sitting at 5-5. It's because you can get to Hill, and I think who knows what the Bandits' makeup's going to be on the forward group, but Dane Smith will be able to lead this offense. He's done it multiple weeks in a row now. They're on a 4-game winning streak since that Rochester loss. I think no matter who they're going to be able to throw out there, they're going to be able to make magic happen. I don't know how. We've been questioning it all year, how they're being able to do it. But even if they're with Chase Frazer, is he going to be playing in this game? The 3 guys that got injured is Nanakoke going to be back? Is McKay going to be back? Is Brandon Robinson going to be back? How about Josh Byrne? There's so many people in the forward group that are big question marks right now. I would assume Byrne is going to be at least questionable in this one after being doubtful. He was out, then he was doubtful. I'm hoping he's going to be questionable in this one after not playing any games in February. That's my hope. And it would be a much-needed addition to this team. But if McCauley keeps it up, what he's doing, they stand a very good chance in the offensive group to get to Warren Hill.
Yeah, he's the main reason, and this is nothing really against Hill. I know he's a good goalie, and we've seen him perform better than this. Not really sure what's going on with this season, but looking at his numbers right there, he has to be, to me, one of the main reasons that this team is not doing quite as good as you would expect. I mean, he's played better than this in the past. I mean, 11.5, 76%. They're not brutal by any means. It's not, 13, 14 or 70%. So they're not atrocious numbers, but they're a little bit closer to league average versus closer to the top. So if this team is struggling to win and struggling even that little bit, I mean, every single goal counts. And I think, like you mentioned, the Bandits should have a way to somehow, I mean, it's called magic for a reason because we don't really understand how or, how it happens. So that's why the offense has been creating magic out of literally thin air after every single player goes down, and somehow they find ways to continue to put up 13 plus goals. I don't get it, but like you said, I think if any of them come back, it's going to be massive boost for this offense. And also, we've talked about it a lot for the defense as well, especially in that last game. You saw a lot of defensive players going up and playing forward shifts because they simply had to do it. And that obviously takes a little bit of a toll on your defense as well. So if the offense can slowly continue to get healthier and healthier, it also helps your defense. Like McKay can go a little bit, not that we really want him to because he's having a heck of a year, but he can go back to playing a little bit more of a transition role. Brandon Robinson played really good and has been playing really well, so we hope to see him back out there. But Dylan Robinson was playing a little bit of offense as well, and even Bomberry played a few shifts on offense. So getting all those guys back to defense is also key for this team. But with them sitting 8-2, I know this is a massive series for them, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how they play it. But the more they keep winning, the more you just don't want to push any injured players back quickly, because right now their sights are solely on playoffs. And I know we've talked about it a bajillion times this entire season so far that every win and every loss is massive in the NLL. It's just everything comes down to one or two losses, one or two wins. But at the same time, if they find a way to make it into playoffs no matter what, they want the team to be healthy that goes into playoffs. So a guy like Byrne is the biggest example. I mean, is he fully ready? He's had a month off. You'd hope he's ready, but if he is even 98%, does the team really risk rushing him back, especially with what you just said, McCauley stepping up and having a great game and having back-to-back pretty solid games, looking a little bit more like someone who can be relied on that left side to fill in that Josh Byrne role and that Chris Cloutier kind of role. So with him kind of emerging as more of a leader on that left side, are they just going to take their real sweet time with a player like Byrne and really make sure that there is as little possible or risk of re-injury as possible?
Yeah, I think it's between Byrne and Frazer as well. I think they're I know Byrne has played more recently than Frazer, but I think it's both soft tissue injuries is the things you want to avoid, because coming back, I don't think it's an issue of worrying about re-injuring what was injured. It would be more because I think they're going to rest them to the point of that being completely healthy. I think for me, it's just, are they in game shape where they can go out there and be comfortable of not having to worry about, hey, they're going to pull a hammy, hey, they're going to pull a groin or something like that, where it sets them back a couple more weeks because they weren't fully in game shape. And I don't know, you can't be I know you can't be in full game shape until you're actually out there on the field and you can tell, but it's a little worrisome if they're coming back. I'm not saying too quickly, but they push them too hard when they're back and they end up pulling like I said, a hammy or something like that.
Exactly. I just don't think they want to take any of those risks.
Yeah, they have higher goals than a win in week 11.
And if this team had lost some of these more recent games where they had no offense and, they were sitting at 6-4 or something like that, a little bit closer, where you're a little bit more in danger of not even making playoffs, I think you push those players back a little bit closer just because obviously you need to make playoffs more than anything. So at that point, you're in the grind to make it. But with 8-2, I know you obviously want number one in the East. That's what you're aiming for. It's what you're hoping for. But more importantly is having a healthy team going into playoffs. So the roster and how healthy these guys will be very interesting and kind of the number one storyline for the Bandits going into this game.
But make sure you check our Twitter and Facebook and everything. And as soon as the injury report that comes out, which is usually, it's not locked in when it does, but it's usually around 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when they actually put it out, and I try to snip it and put it out there. So look for our social media sites, and we'll have it available. But Phil, move on to predictions like we do each week. Bandits are on a 4-game winning streak. You have yet to predict them to lose. What is your prediction for this week versus Halifax in the Bird's Nest, which is a gross way to put it because Bird's Nests are disgusting.
What's wrong with Bird's Nests?
If they're gross, the birds poop in it. They have their babies there. The babies poop in it. Bird's Nests are just gross. They're made of mud, scraps. They're gross.
All right. I don't know if I've ever really taken that approach to a bird's nest before.
Well,
but
you got a new way of thinking now.
I guess. I mean, I feel like the rain handles some of that grossness. I don't know if they're ever made of mud. I don't know what bird's nests.
They're made of mud when they build them on houses and stuff. I mean, I got a solar light in the back of my house, and they can prop themselves against it, and it's pure mud. I've had they've fallen before, and it's pure mud.
That's fair. I feel like your birds got some lazy construction equipment out there. They're like,
where I live, birds are lazy.
Yeah, we got no sticks, no twigs. Let's just go with the old mud hut kind of idea. Good for them, though, for the birds in your area. Prediction, I'm going to go 15-13 Bandits. Last time it was pretty high scoring. I could see it being high scoring again. I mean, the Bandits finding a way to get to 15. Still impressive, but again, Warren Hill hasn't been playing quite his normal self. Their defense is scary, but doesn't have a ton of depth on it. So I think it's going to be a very high-flying kind of battle, especially if the Bandits can get some offensive players back. But I'm going 15-13 for the W.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game, especially if the forward group is as injured as they currently are as of this moment when we're recording. And I think this has got to be a big defensive battle in a Matty Vince game. So I'm along the lines of it being a bit more high scoring, but I got them winning 14-12. I think if you can keep the Halifax Thunderbirds under 13, I think you stand a great opportunity to win this one. But I just think it needs to be a huge four-quarter standout performance by the defense and Matty Vince, because especially if you just have like a McCulley, if you just have a Smith and you just have a Buchanan you're running out there, and then you got some other guys sprinkled in that are kind of fill-ins, I think you're going to need some opportunities in the transition game. You're going to need Nick Weiss to get in the transition game, Dylan Robinson, all those guys to join the rush, because you're going to need some help.
Yeah, just get healthy, hopefully, before this game. Hopefully everybody is healthy, happy, and they're all palling around right now together, because we need a healthy Bandit squad. Every time we go into one of these games with this kind of injury report, it's getting scarier and scarier, especially against some of these really good teams. I mean, even against Rochester, it was terrifying. Last week, it was terrifying simply because the offense was so injured. But again, you're going up against another really good team, and we have no idea what this offense might look like. So please get healthy. I'd rather not be as terrified going into this game looking at what this offense kind of looks like.
But Phil, BSC changes. You currently have Smith, Nanakoke, Robinson, McKay, and Spanger. I have Byrne, McCulley, Buchanan, Weiss, and Priola. Are you making any changes to your team? I know it's still a week out when we're recording this, but are you changing anybody up?
No, and I hope everyone's back. I know Robinson was somehow on crutches, even though he played like the entire fourth quarter, so that one was a little confusing. I assume / hope it's just precautionary, that they were like, hey, get off that knee and rest it, and Nanakoke was in street clothes, kind of watching Rax dance at the last game, so hopefully he's okay as well. So I'm just gonna let it roll. Let it roll.
I am also gonna do the exact same thing, because I don't know what the rest of the lineup's going to be like. I don't know when Josh Byrne's coming back, but there's no way I'm dropping him and letting you pick him up. So we'll move on to the milestones here. If Matt Vince plays on Friday, he will pass Brandon Miller for sole possession of 9th place in NLL history in games played with 262. It's he's like what? They're 66% through a full year of games played. It's ridiculous. 365 days. Yeah, that's a lot. Steve Priola is 4 caused turnovers away from passing Chris Corbeil for 4th place in NLL history. He is also 1 game away from passing the great Billy D. Smith for 4th place in Buffalo Bandits history with 193 games played. Once again, say this on the last one, Josh Byrne, if he plays, he's 8 points away from passing Rich Kilgore for 6th place in Bandits history. With 1 more point, Kyle Buchanan becomes just the 35th player in Bandits history to ever record 100 points in the black and orange. Nick Weiss just became the 34th member last Saturday. Matt Spanger, 2 cause turnovers away from tying Ian McKay for 8th place in Bandits history with 51. Max Adler, 5 faceoffs away from passing Rob Kirkby for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He's likely to get that one. And then, obviously, the Dane Smith watch. He currently sits at 58 assists, which is tied for 12th place, or 12th most in Bandits single season history. With 1 more, he'll move into a tie for 10th with 59. With 3, he'll move into a tie for 9th place at 61. With 4, he will tie 8th place with 62. With 6 assists, he'll move into a tie for 7th place with 64. And with 7, because he had 8 last time he faced Halifax, he will tie 6th place for 65. And again, 8 more assists in this one. He will tie 5th place for 66. The guy is just unbelievable. He's averaging 5.8 assists per game so far this year. And then in the points category, he's currently at 82, which is 23rd highest in a Bandits season so far. With 1 more point, he'll move into a tie for 22nd. With 3, he'll move into a tie for 21st. 5, he'll move into a tie for 20th. 6, he'll move into a tie for 19th, and 8, he'll move into a tie for 18th, and then finally, because he had an 11 point last time, with 10, he'll move into a tie for 17th place with 92. Currently, he's averaging 8.2 points per game. Dane Smith, you're really good at this sport. We say it every week, but we still can't say it enough of how good of a player you are. It's unbelievable, and we bow down to you.
I think one of the more interesting ones on that whole list to keep an eye on is Max Adler, because this game, 5 faceoff wins. I mean, I know it sounds a little depressing toward Max, and it has nothing to do with him. It's just who he's going up against is that good. I think 5's going to be. I think he'll get it. I'm gonna say he'll get it, but it's not going to be easy to get even just 5 faceoff wins against Withers. The dude is incredible. But yeah, that's going to be kind of a fun one to watch. But I think he can do it. I think he can do it.
Well, Phil, I think that pretty much concludes this episode. We're recording 6 days in advance. Is there anything else you want to add to this one before we shut it down and we get ready for tomorrow in our time when we're recording this to record the episode that's airing before this? It's a really messed up week, Phil.
Hopefully your travels home that you're currently on from Florida are going great.
I'm hoping they are because I'm flying out of Niagara Falls, so who knows what's going to happen.
Don't land in the falls. That's not a good runway.
That's probably not. I'll let the...
Yeah, if you could just let the pilot know. You're not going to want to steer clear of the water.
Yeah. Water, can't swim, man.
I know it's pretty, and it looks like it might be fun, but please don't.
Let's bail. Let's hit for the runway. But we'll be back on Monday for our normal scheduled shows. We'll talk about the Beauts series. We'll talk about some Sabres games that we have been missing since the week is over now, and then we'll go over this Bandits game versus Halifax. Hopefully it's a win. But thank you all for listening to another episode